All right, everyone, welcome to our week 5 live classroom. Congrats on making it this far. If you didn't know, we do have an exam this week. So my schedule for this live classroom today is to cover the chapter 5 material and then look at a couple of practice exam questions. So if at any point, if anyone here has questions, feel free to stop me. Otherwise, we're just gonna try to plow through all this. So Chapter 5 is on variables and arithmetic, okay? So when we see an equal sign in JavaScript, that is called an assignment operator, all right? So I can assign a value to a variable name, and we use variables to be able to access them in different places in our programs, okay? So it's pretty simple to declare a variable. I can just say var, I just use the keyword var, and then I say a variable name, all right? There are very few things that you can't name a variable, all right? There are a couple of keywords in JavaScript that it won't let you do it, so if I said like var, that wouldn't work because var is a keyword in JavaScript. And so anytime it sees var, it recognizes that you're about to declare a variable. Or if I said var function, okay, that wouldn't work either because function is another keyword that's used in JavaScript. So there's a few keywords that are used for other things. Outside of that, as long as you start with an alphabet letter, as long as you start with a letter, you can even have like numbers and things like that. You can't have special characters in them other than like hyphens and underscores. So there are some rules as far as naming variables go, but we will use variables from here on out, okay? So looking at variables, we have a couple of different variable types in JavaScript, and these are pretty standard across the board. If you go and learn Python or C++ or Java, you'll see very similar variable types or data types, okay? So the first one we'll talk about is a Boolean, all right? That'll either just be true or false, okay? So I can say var today is sunny. That would either be a true or false variable. I can have a number, all right? So if I said like var income or var GPA or var age, all of these would be different types of numbers. I could have a string of text, okay? So if I said like var student name, all right, or var city, that would be an example of a string of text. And we always have those inside of quotation marks. I have a function. We've already looked at a couple of functions. Whether you recognize that they were functions or not is irrelevant, but if you go back and look at your programs, you will see this keyword function in there, and I can actually declare a variable as a data type, as a function data type, all right? And I can have all sorts of stuff in functions. We'll go into those later, but that's just another variable type that I can have. And then another one is an object. Okay, and we won't really go into objects or arrays very much in the next month or so. We will later on in the course, but that's just a way to store a collection of data. Okay, if I was going to declare each one of these, let me just show you in code how that would look. I put some comments here on the side to show which one each one of these are. And so if I said var you are old equals false, I don't have to specify like saying, oh yeah, Boolean you are old or anything like that. I'll use var, the same keyword for every single one of them. And then depending on what I assign to that variable, JavaScript is just going to know what variable type, what data type it is. All right, so I have var you are old equals false, that's a Boolean. I have var price equals 4.99. This decimal could go on forever, or it could just be an integer, it could be a whole number, all right, and it would recognize that as a number. Var name, anytime I have a string, I have to put it in quotes. This is actually a little bit inaccurate because those look like Microsoft Word quotes. Let me pull up some code here to show you a better example. All right, so in here, if I was going to declare a string, I would just say var name equals Colt. All right, and so you can see I don't really have those nice pretty quotation marks, all right, like we would see pop up in Microsoft Word or like these. If I tried to run a program with something like this, it would fail, okay? And I can show you an example of that in a little bit. Var get scripture equals function, and then I got all these parentheses and curly braces. That looks a little bit confusing, right? But let's go back to one of your assignments from like last week, okay? So we have week 4, assignment 1. We had a function called greet user. All right, now look at the syntax. If I delete everything in here, okay, I have a function, a name of the function. In here, I can put some stuff. We're not really going to worry about it right now. And then the content of that function. Basically saying the code that's going to run anytime I call this function. All right, which in this case, I have just 3 lines of code. I'm going to have a prompt, a greeting, or a value to get assigned to a variable called greeting, and then something to display that greeting. All right. And then our last one that we're going to talk about today briefly is just an object. Okay. Now, an object, it kind of looks like a function because I'm using curly braces, but it's just an object, and it uses something called a key value pair. And I can have as many attributes in here as I want. If I said name, is old, likes to sing, is in Rexburg, last name, phone number, I could have as many things as I wanted for an object. And if I was going to actually write that up inside of here, I could say var student equals, and then I could open up these curly braces, and then I would have a key and then a value for it, and I could say Nathan. And then let's say I want to do another key. I could say like, oh yeah, last name, and then I could have Birch or whatever. And I could go forever with this. As long as I keep the syntax good with commas and everything, I could just keep on going. I could say age and have that be a number, and location, have that be another string. And then just, so that's an object, and I could store different things in there. And then if I wanted to alert something in that object, I would basically access it by saying like alert student dot, and then the name of the key. All right, so if I did this, it would alert something inside of my student variable, and then it would find the value of my name attribute, which in this case is, all right. So like I said, we're not really going to go too much into objects right now. There are a couple chapters towards the end of your books that talk about them and that go into them. But right now, I just want you guys to know some of the different data types that exist. Okay. If I say var and then I say a name without assigning it anything, so notice the one thing that's missing here is just an equal sign. All right, that is our assignment operator in JavaScript. It's just a single equal sign. And anytime I have a single equal sign, I'm just going to assign a value to a variable name. If I just say var name or var student or var empty and have a semicolon there, this is just fine. Okay, it will create that variable, but it doesn't have any data stored in it. All right, so if I tried to print it, or if I tried to say is x greater than empty, it wouldn't really work because it doesn't have a value. It doesn't even have a data type at this point. At this point, the only thing that the computer has done is allocated a space in memory for data to be stored there. Okay. Any questions on these different variable data types? Okay. All right. So desk checks. I have gotten a number of questions on our desk checks this week, so we're gonna look at some of those. But really, all a desk check is a way for you to step through your code sequentially, one step at a time, and to see what is being held in variables at different points of time throughout your code execution. All right. So I have var x equals 7, y equals -3, a equals x, and then x equals 4. Okay. So the only one that's really changing here, or at least getting a second value, is x. Okay, it gets 7 first, and then it gets a 4 at the end. But for me to know what var a is going to retrieve, I'm going to need to know what x is. And I can use a desk check to see that really easily. I can just have a column for each variable that is in my program. So x would have 7 first, y would have -3, a would then get 7 because x was 7, and I assigned 7 over to a when I said a equals x. And then at the very bottom, I said x equals 4. Now, one thing I want you guys to notice on here is that my last line of code, what's different about that? What is not there that is in the other 3 lines of code?
That variable.
Yeah, that var keyword. Okay, remember var is to declare a new variable. All right, if I have a variable declared, I don't have to say var ever again for that variable. I can just access it by the variable name. So I could say x equals 7, x equals 4, console.log x, alert x. I don't have to say alert var x or anything like that. I can just use it by the variable name. The var keyword is going to allocate that space in memory. Well, that space in memory only has to get allocated once. Once it's there, we can swap values in and out of it just fine, but we're only going to ever declare a variable once. All right, swapping values between variables. This is a little bit tricky because I can't just, imagine that I have like 2 boxes. All right, I pull 2 boxes out of my closet and I want to move the contents of one box into the other box and vice versa. All right, to do that efficiently, I'm going to have to move all the contents of one box out. I'll probably just grab the other box and dump it into the first one, and then move the contents from my floor into the second box. All right, so that floor space is where this variable swap comes in. All right, it's a temporary place to store data. So let's say I wanted to swap the values of 2 variables. I have var a equals 10, b equals 20, swap equals a. Because as soon as I say a equals b, that 10 is gone. All right, a had 10 in it, but as soon as I assign the value of b to a is then going to be 20. And at this point in time, b is also going to be 20. So for me to be able to retrieve that 10 and assign it to b, I have to store it in a third location. So if I looked at a desk check for this, a would start off at 10, b would start off at 20, swap receives the value of a, which is 10, and then we assign b to a, so a would get 20, and then b would get the value of swap, which is 10. Okay. All right, arithmetic. You guys, before you get super stressed about this, just know that we're not going to go any deeper into math than what you see right here. Okay, so these are the JavaScript arithmetic operators. This is all there is, nothing else. There is a JavaScript object called math that has about 1 billion things in it. If I wanted to do like trigonometry or anything with pi or things like that, those things can be found in that JavaScript math object. But these are actual arithmetic operators that I could use. So if I had 2 numbers, 3.5 and 2, I could say x equals 3.5 times 2 or something like that. And so I have these operators. I have my negation operator, which just basically turns a true value into false or a false value into true. Okay, I have multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. This modulus right here, if anyone doesn't remember what that does, it basically retrieves the remainder after division has taken place. So if I have 20 divided by 6, that would give me like 3.3, something like that, okay? Because 6 goes into 18 3 times, and then we'd have 2 left over, okay? What modulus does is it just gives me that 2. All right, it gives me whatever's left over after the division has taken place. So if I said 5 modulus 2, 2 goes into 4 evenly twice, and then there's 1 left over. So 5 modulus 2 would be 1. And then we have our assignment operator, which we've already talked about. One thing that I don't want you guys getting hung up on is thinking of this assignment operator as equivalency, okay? If we look into math, I can like solve for x. I can be like x equals 2b times y or whatever. And as long as I know what b and y are, I can solve for x, all right? That is equivalency. And we're not talking about that, okay? If I say x equals 6, that's like impossible to solve for, okay? It just doesn't work. Okay, if I say x equals 6 in JavaScript, then I'm just putting the value of 6, just 6, into my variable called x, all right? There's no like equivalency or anything like that going on, or like switching sides of the equal sign or anything like that. All right, operator precedence. All right, so this is really important. Anytime you have a lot of arithmetic going on, it's nice to space it out. And what I mean by that is, let's say I have a big old fraction and I have a bunch of stuff on top of the fraction, a bunch of stuff on the bottom. I would split that out into a couple of variables. That's just my preference. Maybe I'd have a variable top. I'd say var top equals blah, 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 blah. Var bottom equals this. And at the end, I'd say top divided by bottom or whatever. But anytime I have a bunch of these operators together, we have to follow the order of operations. Same thing back in elementary school that we all learned about, okay? And there's really not much different than when we're in elementary school. We have our parentheses, which last time I thought about algebra, I'm pretty sure that was first too. Then we have negation, multiplication, division, and modulus. Those are all the same. They have the same level of precedence. Then addition and subtraction. And then finally, Once all that has taken place, we will execute our assignment. All right. Now, anytime there are multiple of the same level of precedence inside of an arithmetic equation, just go from left to right. Okay. So if I said x times 2 divided by 3, I would do the x times 2 first, then I would take that value and divide it by 3. Okay. All right. For more information on this, I put this link in here to help you guys to practice. So I realize you can't click on this. So if I just came in here and I typed in JavaScript arithmetic W3 schools. I love this site. Okay, first thing that came up. All right, I see all these things. You can see I also have a couple of shortcuts that I didn't really talk about. Increment and decrements, I also didn't talk about those just now. But the really nice thing is I can come into here and I can just play with it. I can practice. So I can be like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen if I say 100 plus 50 times 2. Will it be 200 or will it be 300? Depending on if 100 plus 50 happened first and then multiplied it by 2 to get 300, or 50 times 2 happened first to be 100 plus 100. Okay, I could run that and check. Be like, oh, okay, so multiplication, it comes first. Okay, well, what if I put in some parentheses around that? Then what happens? Oh, then I have 300 because I forced this 100 to add to the 50 first, and then I multiplied 150 times 2. Okay, so I like using this website because you can practice. You know, if I had a bunch of stuff in here, different things like that, like I could just run it and I could see exactly what it's going to do. Okay. All right. Algebra to JavaScript. Okay. We're going to be doing a fair amount of this for the next few weeks. Okay, so it might look a little daunting right now. You might be like, dude, I was never good with fractions and it's been years since I touched this. And if you're in that boat, I was in that same boat when I started teaching this class. Okay, so you're not alone. You're just fine. And you're gonna have a lot of practice. Okay, you're gonna have desk checks to help you out with this, different things to walk through, in-class examples, things like that to help you kind of get used to this. Again, right down here, I have another link for a W3 Schools Triad editor. Just try it out. You know, run it. Don't rely on your own knowledge. If we have a fraction in there somewhere, just like try running it and see what you get, and then check it in a calculator. Try to get the numerator first, see if that pans out in a calculator, see if you can get it right, and then test out the denominator. But so let's look at this first example. I have v equals I times 1 plus a over n times y over n. Okay. Now in JavaScript, I can't just put a value right up against parentheses. Okay. In algebra, I know that I have to multiply I times everything inside of this inside of these parentheses. In JavaScript, that would give me a big old error. It wouldn't even work. Okay, because in JavaScript, I have to put this little multiplication symbol, this asterisk. Okay, so to convert this over to JavaScript, I could say I times, and then in parentheses, because I want all this to happen independently of anything else going on, 1 plus a over n. Okay, a divided by n. If I wanted to, a lot of people, anytime they have a fraction, they like to put that in parentheses, just to make it explicitly clear that that division is going to take place at the right time, no matter what else is going on. You know, so if I wanted to, I could say 1 plus parenthesis a divided by n, and then close that parenthesis. I could do that and it would work just fine. The reason why we don't have to is because of the order of operations or operator precedence, okay? So I know that division is going to happen first inside of this parentheses. All right, so I'd have a divided by n, and then I'd add 1 to it. All right, so with that in mind, technically, I don't even think I would need these parentheses over here, because at this point, I'd have I times this times y divided by n. Well, multiplication and division have the same order of precedence, and so they just go left to right. Okay, let's look at our next one. 7 over 2 times r plus 13. Okay, so if I was going to do that one first, I would just say 7 divided by, and look at all these parentheses. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, I can put as many parentheses as I want, and that's just fine. Okay, in this case, it's more important than the last one where it was optional. This one, you kind of have to have r plus 13 happen and 2 get multiplied by both of those. Then minus 3 times, and then again, a bunch of parentheses. You can add in as many parentheses as you want, okay? Ensuring that things happen when you need them to, okay? All right, Celsius to Fahrenheit. So if anyone didn't know, this is the formula to convert a Fahrenheit value, or sorry, a Celsius value to Fahrenheit. All right, it's just 9/5 times C plus 32. Okay, so in this program, I say document.getElementById, Celsius input box.value. Now, let me go into that a little bit. I wonder if I have this program on here. Celsius to Fahrenheit, I do. Okay. Let me open this up a little bit more, close that. All right, so this guy right here, when I say document.getElementById, what JavaScript is going to do is it is going to scour the body of my HTML document for this ID. All right, and I'm literally talking an ID here. Okay, I can put an ID on any attribute that I want. Okay, I can use these for styling purposes or for JavaScript purposes. I'm sure there are other ones as well. Okay, so right here, if I say document.getElementById, it's going to look through the entire body of the document at all the IDs until it finds the right one. In this case, it's Celsius input box. So it's going to retrieve, this is an input, it's going to retrieve the value that that user put into that box, that input, all right? With that, I assign it to a variable called text. Then text is just going to be a string because I'm pulling it from a text box, all right? And I have input equals type text, so that would be a string. And I want to do math with it. So I'm going to say parse float text, and I'm going to assign that to variable C. Well, by this point, parse float is going to turn my string into a float data type, into a number with decimals. Okay, so that'll be C, and then I can do my little formula. C times 9 divided by 5 plus 32. That equals F. And then look at this again. We have document.getElementById. This time it's going to look for FarenDiv down here. And it's going to say inner HTML equals F. All it's going to do is just inject F into this div. All right, which is what we're going to be using div for the majority of the semester. If I wanted to run this to see what it looks like, I can just copy the path, come over here and paste it. Okay, it says enter temperature in Celsius. I'm going to say 0 because that's like one of the few numbers that I know what they are in Fahrenheit. And I'm going to say convert. And it says 32. Okay, so that's good. Now, this thing over here is an amazing gift and blessing. All right, these are my developer tools. If I close this, I can hit F12 to open them. I can right click and hit inspect, or apparently I can type in Control-Shift-L or I. Control-Shift-I, looks like. Okay. I go over to my sources tab. I can click on my file, lecture Celsius to Fahrenheit.html, and I can see my code. All right, well, the other really cool thing in here is I can actually put a breakpoint right here. And what this is going to do, it's basically going to do a desk check for me. All right, it's going to like stop my code and see what the values of my different variables are as I go through my code. So if let me put in like 40 right here, and I'm going to hit convert. Hover over document and see everything that's inside of document. Among these things, at some point in here is a function called getElementById. I don't know where that function is, but if I hover over getElementById, it shows this little F, shows that it's a function. If I highlight from document to the end of this parenthesis, it will isolate this Celsius input box. You see on the left side of my screen, it has that input box in the body of my HTML. It's actually highlighted, saying, hey, this input, and then it has that little number sign, Celsius input box, saying that's the ID that it's looking for. And there's all these attributes in here, most of which you'll never touch in your entire life. But one of them that
You guys still there?
Yeah, we're still here.
sorry, the power just went out for a sec. That was weird. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, can you still see my screen?
I can see you now. I don't have
Okay.
a screen.
All right, let me share my screen. And let me bring this back over to it. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, we got it.
Okay. So anyways, so I can look at this and see everything that is a part of this input box. All right. If I go down to almost to the very bottom, wow, where is value? Values somewhere in here. You'd think that this would just be alphabetized. And that's not alphabetized. Right there, value. It shows 40. And it's not just the number 40. Notice that width is just a 0. It's not in quotation marks. 40 is in quotation marks, which means that the data type that JavaScript is recognizing here is a string. All right. As soon as I hit F10 or come over here and hit step over next function call, it'll like jump down to the next step in my program. I can then hover over text and see that text is 40, a string version of the number 40. Well, parse float is a function in JavaScript that will convert that into a number. So if I hit F10 again, C is now the number 40. Text is still the word 40, and C is the number 40. All right, then I have all this arithmetic. I can highlight little chunks of it. I can say, what's C times 9? That's 360. What's C times 9 divided by 5? That's 72. Plus 32, and I can see exactly what F is going to be at the end of this. I hit F10, I can see what F is. And then again, I could look in document, I could find this exact ID. It highlights it over there on the left side of my screen. And then I'm assigning F to inner HTML. And then you can see we put 104 into there. Okay. Now, I know that was a lot to look at, but if you go into our video spreadsheet that's in the syllabus, let's give it a sec. These right here go into everything that I use the developer tools for on a regular basis. Okay, this sources one is the one that I just talked about. I teach you how to debug, how to put in breakpoints, how to stop and like see different values. It's all there. Okay, so if you like what you just saw, check out that video. Okay. All right, let's head back over to here. Present. Okay. Assignment operators. Okay, so we have a couple of shortcuts. Okay, so a lot of times we want to just change the value of a variable. All right, it's great when I just want to like make a new variable and assign a value to it, but a lot of the time I'm going to want to make a variable that already has a value. I'm just going to want to like add to it or take away from it or things like that. All right, so if at any point, let's say I had a birthday coming up, all right, and I knew that my daughter's age was going to increment by 1 year. All right, I could say daughter age plus equals 1. And what that's going to do is be like daughter's age equals daughter's age plus 1. All right, it's just a shortcut. So anytime I have like times equals, divided by equals, modulus equals, plus equals, minus equals, that's the exact same thing as saying like x equals x plus y, or x equals x times y if I had like this multiplication one or something like that. You know, they're just shortcuts. So if you never wanted to use these operators, these shortcut ones, you'd never have to. Okay, you can do the equivalent right over here, the way it's shown over here, and it would do the exact same thing. Okay. Increment and decrement operators. Now, it was so common to have a variable that you only had to increment once or decrement once that they made another shortcut for them. Okay, so right here I have x equals x plus 1, and that would take the value of x, let's say it's 10, and it would say x equals 10 plus 1, 11, and that would get assigned over to x. Just adds 1 to x. So they made the first shortcut, x plus equals 1, which would do that exact same thing. It would just add 1 to x and assign it to x. But then since it was so common, we just started saying x plus plus, okay? And that would, in and of itself, just add a single value to 1, okay? We also have plus plus x, and then the pre and post decrement operators as well. So the way these work, at the end of the day, plus plus x and x plus plus are going to do the exact same thing to x. It will increment it by 1. The timing, though, is a little bit different depending on whether the pluses are first or second in comparison to the variable name, in this case, x. So if I look at example 18, this is just straight out of your book, var a equals 4, b equals plus plus a times 3 plus 2. Okay, so we know that a is going to jump up to 5, no matter what. A is going to get incremented at the end of this. Okay, but will I multiply 4 times 3 plus 2, or will I multiply 5 times 3 plus 2? Okay, that is where the timing comes in, because it will affect what b gets. All right, if I had, you know, so right in this case, I have the pre-increment, and that just means that it's going to happen first, and then I'll do all the other arithmetic that's there. So I'd increment 4 to 5, multiply 5 times 3, and then add 2, giving us 17. Looking at this guy over here, it's the post increment, which means I'm going to do all this other math first, and then I'll increment A. So I'll take 4 times 3, which is 12, plus 2 is 14, assign it to B, and then I'll increment A up to 5. All right. Now, I don't really use the pre-increment or pre-decrement operators very much. That's just my personal preference, but they do exist. And so it's important to know that they do exist. All right, our math object, okay? I talked to you guys a little bit ago. I'm like, hey, if you ever want to do like trigonometry with JavaScript, you can. All right, here's a bunch of stuff. It's really nice because some of these, like getting a random number or rounding or square root. What else do we have? Max or min. If I had like 50 numbers that users typed in, I could easily find the highest or the smallest number of them. The rest of these I don't really use very much. Let's see, over here, pi. People use pi a lot, square root also. You know, but all of these things exist in there. And again, if I wanted to look more into this or practice it, I could just say JavaScript math. Look at that, JavaScript math object is the first thing that comes up. Shows what pi is. It shows what these rounding functions will do, the whole shebang, okay? And you could look through all these if you wanted to. All right, the majority of which you won't use in this class. Some of the ones that I just said you will, but there's a little description here for each one of them, and you could test them out in anyone. All right, common mistakes. All right, forgetting to declare a variable. The only difference between miles equals 61 and var miles equals 61 is this var keyword. All right, so let's look at an example right here, just to give you guys an idea of what this error is actually going to look like. So I'm going to take var off of here. I'm going to run my program, go back into Google Chrome. I think it's still open. Yeah, it is. All right, I'm actually going to close my developer tools for a sec and refresh the page. Type in 40. I hit enter. It actually worked. Okay. If I hit F12, I think it recognized that because Google Chrome is just awesome. Okay, browsers are getting better and better, which is really nice. But let's say in here, at any point, if I use a variable that isn't defined, let's just say I say like parse float text or something like that, and I try to run it, you won't see anything happening on the page. All right, each time I click this, nothing's happening. If I open up my developer tools, I'll see this nice red thing, some more red things. These are errors that are showing up in my code. All right, if I click on my console, it'll show me uncaught reference error, text is not defined. All right, many browsers, even a lot of versions of Chrome, will have this exact same error if you don't use the var keyword. All right, and so it's really important both to have your developer tools open when you're doing something, because I didn't see anything on the page. I was clicking on this and nothing was even happening. But as soon as I have these developer tools open, I'm like, wow, I hit that button like a bunch of times, okay? And I could look at this and it shows me, hey, text is not defined. I could come in here, look at my code and be like, oh, it's because I named it text. Then I could come back, refresh the page, type in 40 and run it. No errors, it ran just fine, okay? Another common one, declaring the same variable twice, okay? So the only difference there is once I declare a variable, I say var total. I never have to say var again for that variable. I can say total equals 6 or total plus equals 20 or whatever. Forgetting quotes around text. All right, this is a huge one that Google Chrome will not help you with. All right, so let's say I wanted to output to the user the Fahrenheit temperature is, all right. Now my text editor has all these red lines. Those aren't just red waves, they're not good things, okay? If I open up my browser and run it, immediately I see this little error showing up here. I haven't even done anything, I just refreshed the page. If I click over here into the console, it says uncaught syntax error, unexpected identifier. And it says line 24 in here. Look, my browser has those red waves too, except they're like carrots. Anyways, if I try to run this, it's not going to work. It shows me more errors. This time it says cells to far is not defined. Well, that'd be really confusing. It's like, well, of course it's defined. It's right here and it was just working. Okay, I just wanted to add some more text. The issue is It's trying to find variables that are called these things. And even if it could find variables that were called those things, throwing them all like right next to each other like that wouldn't work, okay? So anytime I have text, I have to put it inside of quotation marks, all right? But look at that, it still has this red line right there. It says it's expecting a semicolon, all right? That's just because I didn't have something to basically concatenate that. You guys saw with your scripture, the scripture program that you guys wrote. But like this, I could have like a prompt right there or like some nice text to display. And I say plus F, and then I could basically throw those two things together and display it. So if I come back and refresh it, errors are gone. I can run this and it says the Fahrenheit temperature is 122. Okay. All right, let's look at another one. Using parentheses for multiplication. Okay, this example on the left, var z equals 3 parentheses x plus y, would work perfectly in algebra. We would know that 3 has to multiply against x and y. In JavaScript, we have to actually explicitly have that multiplication operator. Okay. Using caret for exponentation. This doesn't work, as nice as that would be. Instead, we can use our math object, all right? And our math object has a function called pow. So let me take this out of here real quick. So I could say var temp equals 2, and then I could say var temp squared equals math.pow. Okay, it has my function. Notice that this looks really similar to this. It's the same syntax color, like the highlighting color. They're both yellow. They both have parentheses. It's because they're both functions. All right, this function is part of the math object in JavaScript. Notice how earlier I was talking about like that student object that have like a first name, last name, phone number, whatever. You can also have functions inside of objects. The math object has a lot of functions in it, one of which is pow. Well, pow has two parts that we're going to put into our parentheses. One is the value that we want to raise to a specific exponent. The second is to what exponent, okay? And so this syntax right here, it's saying, hey, take temp up to the second power and assign it to temp squared. Okay, so that's how we use that. Can't use the caret. Can't use the caret like we do in algebra. Forgetting to convert text to a number. All right. So this is another thing that Google Chrome will help you out with sometimes. All right. But many browsers will not help you out with it. Okay. If I have text right here, even though that one example that we saw with the debugger was showing my text as 40 as a string, it would not allow me to do this. Because if I put text right here, that's what it's going to see. And it's going to be like, I can't multiply a string by 9. Like, that just doesn't work. So I have to parse it. There's a parse float function in JavaScript. I would assign it over to C, which would basically just convert this into 40, the number 40, and then I could put C there, which in this case would just be 40. Okay. All right, any questions on common mistakes, arithmetic, anything we've talked about up to this point?
So far, so good.
Okay, sounds good. Well, in that case, I think I'm going to end this recording and we'll start a new one for the exam.